Hey everybody, this is Chipod Ironicast, episode 4 for March 2015. We're recording this on the very 1st of March to really get it on the ground floor of March.
Yeah.
This month, we're going to be bringing you an announcement of an upcoming project that we're pretty excited about. A little bit of a history lesson with my favorite historical figure. Some talk about recent changes in how people are talking about games, and once again, a question from one of our listeners out there, just like you. So, yeah, I hope you're excited about that.
I'm pretty excited.
Pretty excited. So let's start. Now, we actually used this podcast to first talk about what is still our next LP. But this is something entirely different. This is another side project. Why don't you tell us about it?
So I like old-ass demo discs, mainly just because they have lots of really embarrassing promotional videos on them. And it turns out demo discs are dirt cheap, so I bought 20 demo discs. And so Demo Theater is just going through a lot of old demo discs and laughing at all the really embarrassing videos that are on them. I mean, I play the demos too, but they're not the best part in my mind. Because, I mean, nothing can really compare to, like, the Mushroom Head music videos.
No. Mushroom Head was a once-in-a-generation talent.
Did you know Mushroom Head is still making music? I looked them up. They have a music video from late last year.
I was not aware Mushroom Head ever made music.
Well, they make sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, Mushroom.
So, what do you think is it about demo discs that makes them so darn special?
They're just like little time capsule type things, especially like with the PlayStation Underground, both for the PS1 and PS2 eras. They were at, like, the height, especially PS1, the height of like just starting to appeal to like 12 and 13-year-olds, and so they had to be all like extreme.
Right.
And everybody you saw in all the videos talking about the games and promoting them were also people in like their early to mid 20s who had frosted tips. And now they look back on that and they're very embarrassed about it.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's just weird, like, look at nascent, like, gamer culture, all the stuff that's sort of crystallized today. You can see it in sort of in the cradle, I guess, in these demo discs. And,
I mean, it's also fun just to look at the actual demos, too, because a lot of them are earlier builds. Some of them have, at least some of the games I've actually played a lot. The parts in the demos are a little different than what they are in the final versions. There's stuff, like, I haven't gotten around to it, but one of my demo discs has the Shower of the Colossus demo on it, which is a really interesting demo because a lot of the game world is kind of half in the demo, but they put invisible walls to keep you from getting to it. But there are like tons of ways of getting around it and exploring like these half-completed areas and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes without any collision detection, sometimes there is. You just have to guess and hope you don't fall through the world. And there's also a climbing bug where you can basically have infinite stamina, so you can climb all the way to the top of the really tall tower in the beginning of the game, which has a secret area that you're not supposed to get to until you like play through the game
until
2
you
or 3
eat
times.
all the lizards or whatever it is.
Yeah, until you eat enough stuff to have a ton of stamina. So you can get all the way up there in the demo. Stuff like that's pretty cool.
That is interesting. So, of the demo discs, have you tried out a lot of them yet, or?
I have about a little over 20 of them. Most of them PS2 things. I have a couple PS1 ones. I found a GameCube one pretty recently, and there aren't too many GameCube discs. I've played a couple of them. There's a couple that actually have some really good things on it. Like there's this one here that's got Zone of the Enders 2 on it.
Hey.
There's one that has Metal Gear Solid 3. There's another one that's got like Time Splitters or Shinobi. There might be a Prince of Persia, Sands of Time one. But yeah, for most of these, I'm trying to not play them before I actually do a video on them.
Right.
Just because.
Now, these all came from different sources. I think you've got some like promotional direct mail demo stuff, and also like store display demos.
Yeah, the GameCube one I just found at this old game store in Flint. they had a single GameCube thing, still in the case too, that it's just like interactive disc number 35. It doesn't have any real cover art. The back of it is just like descriptions or instructions for the employees to figure out how to turn a GameCube on.
Yeah, how to turn the music up really high.
And I don't know what's on that disc because the box is just plain white with black text on it. I haven't put it in yet. But yeah.
I imagine those are the ones intended for store displays are pretty different because I don't remember seeing any store displays letting me play music videos or talk to 3D animated beach babes.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the GameCube one is like because I mean there just weren't any real demo discs like that were released in magazines or anything. You had to get them from pre-ordering something, or they were just meant for retail displays only.
Right.
Like there was like a Metroid Prime demo disc.
They always seemed more just down to business, like straight to brass tacks. The GameCube discs. Yeah.
That reminds me, I don't have this demo disc. I would love to get it and show it off. There is a PlayStation 2 demo disc that has a demo of Beautiful Joe 2 on it. And that demo disc is bugged. If you play the Beautiful Joe 2 demo while your memory card is still in the PS2, it erases your memory card.
Okay, why would you want that, though? That seems like one that's pretty safe to avoid.
I don't know. I just think it's really funny that some kind of bug like that somehow made it through.
What will you do with your hundreds of Metal Gear Solid saves back from those LPs?
I will shed a single tear and say goodbye, and I will finally let go. That's what'll happen. It's like when people, have to burn stuff just to forget and let go. I'm not burning that memory card, though. Those are expensive.
Yeah. You got to get those 8 megs and keep them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be a new side project coming up. I imagine there's not really a schedule. It's more like fitting it in where it goes.
Yeah, because it's like I did that first one kind of before I really planned to do it.
There's a proof of concept available.
Yeah, I don't think all of those will be streamed. Sometimes I'll stream them if I just don't feel like streaming something else. But yeah, that might be like a mix of just streams and pre-made videos whenever I can fit them in. There's no real schedule for that. Plus, I don't want to like burn myself out because I have like 20 of these.
Yeah.
And a couple broken ones I'm still trying to get fixed. I need to get them buffed or something.
I'm looking forward to that. That's the quickest segment we ever did. Hooray!
All right. Also, if when I'm posting any of the demo theaters on YouTube, if there's a download link, it's probably because the music videos got blocked. So you're going to have to download them to see the best part of the video.
To get the whole experience.
Yeah.
Because Mushroom Face or whatever.
Mushroom Head, and then whatever the fuck. Somehow Mushroom Head was not the one that got ID'd. It was the other one that isn't even a band anymore. It was the one where the girl is running through the woods, and there's a guy taking a bathtub with mealworms.
Look, that is some high-class intellectual property.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't just be throwing around your mealworm bathtubs willy-nilly.
There's that lady who is covered in saran wrap, just kind of flailing around in the background. It's the newest fashion. Yeah.
You're into video games. You like this, right? Yeah? This is your kind of music in your music videos?
Well, I mean, let me take another listen. Is it going jug, 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 jug? Oh, it is? Yeah, I like this. These are the guitars I like.
Oh, no, I just like jug bands.
Oh, okay.
That's the... If there's no washboard, you're not going to get any airplay with me.
No wash tub bass. I don't know, man. How are you going to keep the beat without a wash tub?
Look, everybody in the band needs to be minimum half siblings. If one of them's a prodigy, they're allowed to be a cousin, but like no further out than that.
Oh man, gotta have that familial bond.
Yeah,
when you're jamming.
That's what makes the sound come out right.
Otherwise, you just try playing the wash tub bass, and it's just like boing. It just doesn't work.
My washboard went flat. Okay, that's the quickest we ever did.
That's the quickest.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. people really liked, I don't know, the semi-educational nature of our first podcast. So we're going to go dipping into something similar to that well. And mostly this is just because I read a book and I want to brag.
All right.
So we're going to do a little talk about Ask Me Anything about the Chevalier de St Gall, better known as Giacomo Casanova, who is awesome. I love him. He is definitely my favorite historical figure. Because there's something about a person who comes up from roughly nothing and just through charm and pretty much, fake it till you make it, he comes out on top of the world. And today we still venerate that sort of thing, but we have a word for them, con artists. But back in the day, they were called adventurers, and that's just so romantic, So I thought I'd share a few fun little episodes from his life, and then see where the conversation takes us.
All right.
So he had gone to school and started traveling Europe as a young man just to see the sights. Joined the military for a while, or he went to Turkey and very nearly converted to Islam in order to marry a lady and inherit great wealth.
Oh, wow.
Because her dad liked him so much. He never met the lady. He just had lunch with this incredibly wealthy man, and they talked about their philosophy. Like, you know what? You should convert to Islam and marry my daughter, and you'll be fabulously wealthy forever. And he's like, nah, I'm going back. I'm going back to Europe. But eventually, his whole life is a series of these trips, just going all around Europe and eventually getting back to home in Venice when he was allowed. And oftentimes the trips were to talk to different people so he could be allowed back in Venice again. But he hadn't. We're still early days, this first story, and he's at a wedding, and on his way out, he sees this rich old guy get hit by a carriage, and loads him back in, and I think he has a heart attack or something.
Oh my God.
Takes him home, calls the doctor, and the doctor's like, all right, I know how to take care of this. We're going to cover him in this paste made primarily of mercury, and the fumes will help.
Wait, no. Oh my God, no. Get that man out of there.
That's pretty much exactly what it did. Like, after a day or so, like, the guy's getting much worse, and the doctor's like, oh no, that's how it happens. They get worse, and then they get better. That's just the way my patented mercury fume paste works.
God.
So he chases the doctor out, screaming, washes off the paste, and then he's just like, fine, we're going to do this my way. Just give me some food and some water and some time, and this guy's gonna be back up on his feet. And that's what happened. He healed this guy from his malady, from his ailments, and that's not the first or last time Casanova had a disagreement with doctors. There's much later in his life when he won. Yeah, I guess he won a duel in Warsaw. He got the lesser injury. He was only shot in the hand.
Oh, okay.
But his hand, was all swollen and turning colors. And the doctor's like, we're going to have to cut that off. And like hell you are. Get out of here. I want my hand. Like, well,
I just need some food and time for my hand.
Well, Mr. Casanova, if we don't cut off your hand now, we're going to have to cut off your arm tomorrow. I was like, fine, whatever, because I can't use my arm without the hand. Give me another day. He kept the arm and the hand. It eventually got better, but it was totally gangrene and messed up.
Oh, God.
Then there was the other time when he was going to be bled. and instead he grabbed a gun and shot at the doctors. I think this was in France.
Oh, okay. They just keep the gun on the with all the other surgical instruments.
Well, no, it was his gun. He keeps his gun around.
All right. I'm just imagining doctors having guns right next to...
He's a 1700s adventurer. Of course he's got a gun.
All right.
But eventually, this guy back in Venice, Mr. Mercury, he comes to, he feels a lot better, and he's like, wow, you must have mystical gifts. Because this guy and his other rich, snooty friends were closet practitioners of Kabbalism, like Kabbalah.
Okay.
Jewish mystical, magical stuff. And never turning down an opportunity to get wealthy people to like him. Casanova's like, yes, yes, I am. And they taught him some stuff, and he took that and basically invented his own mix of cold reading and numerology in order to basically trade for another 15, 20 years as a mystical soul who could just go around and help people out. He'll read your fortune. No big deal. Whatever.
Man, I wish I could bullshit my way through stuff like this. Guy sounds like he can.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, his whole life is basically just claiming to be who he wanted to be, and then people just dig it. And he was so... he was charming and self-educated enough to live the life that he wanted. And by the time people found out he was faking, they liked him too much to call him on it. Which is why he's known as the Chevalier de St. Gall. On one of his trips to France, he started introducing himself that way. There is no such place as St. Gall to have a Chevalier.
All right.
But who cares?
Whatever. He's cool enough.
If you act like French nobility and you dress like French nobility, he eventually was made French nobility.
I mean, if he says it's there, I mean, it's there.
Yeah, whatever.
He's cool.
That period was probably his most successful. Like, he invented a public lottery throughout France, which made him fabulously wealthy.
Oh, nice.
And then he bought a silk factory, is what it was.
Okay.
And probably the smartest thing he ever did money-wise, because he was constantly, throughout his life, gaining and losing fortunes pretty much overnight. Which, again, came to pass when the silk factory burned down, but at least that time it wasn't his fault. That's just an accident.
Aw.
But then he always had a way of making enemies of people, crossing the wrong guy, usually out of jealousy, especially romantic jealousy. Mm-hmm. The one thing he's famous for, not an exaggeration. No, he was all the ladies of Europe, basically.
Really?
The lucky ones, anyhow. So if you're going to get a copy of his memoir, The Story of My Life, probably the name of everyone's memoir when you come right down to it.
Yeah.
Don't get one that's too bowdlerized, because you're missing out on so many euphemisms. My God. Such poetic and varied euphemisms. The language that only a 1700s French and Italian poet can deliver for stone cold fucking.
Wow, I think I have to read this just for that.
That's
now,
not one of them. That's a me original.
All right. That still sounds great, because anytime I've seen really old memoirs or something with lots of euphemisms, the stuff they write is some of the funniest shit I've ever read.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the story that he used to make himself famous.
Right.
So he spent some time in Venice, traveling freely as Mr. Mercury, as we've named him, under his patronage, living the life of a man of letters. And so then eventually someone comes knocking on his door and is like, hey, let me see your library. Like, yeah, sure, I've got an awesome library. Take a look at my books. My books are so cool. And he's like, all right, cool. Thanks, Casanova. Really enjoyed touring your personal library. And he leaves. A couple days later, the cops come like, hey, I've got a list of contraband books. So you're going to get locked up now.
Oh.
So he was sentenced to... Some sources say it was a 5-year sentence in the Leads, which is a prison in the Doge's palace.
Okay.
Named for the heavy slats of lead that formed the roof. Although, to hear him tell the story, it was an indefinite imprisonment, and he was never ever told the term.
Okay.
So, prison is apparently awful. Not the first time he'd be locked up, not the last, but this was a especially bad prison.
Oh, no.
The first cell was too short to stand up in and too narrow to lie down in, that sort of thing.
Oh, God.
But he eventually makes friends with his jailer and is like, hey, if I send you to my patron, he's going to set me up with an allowance, and you are going to bring me an end table, some paper and ink. Let's make this jail thing work for both of us. And the jailer's like, yeah, all right, that's cool. You're a swell guy.
I don't even know why you're in here. You seem too cool.
Yeah. So eventually he's going to break out. He starts communicating. He sets up a book lending program within the prison. Just so he can slip notes into the spines of books to communicate with the guy in the next cell over.
Oh, nice.
Who is a monk or a priest who had gotten the wrong people upset. So they're communicating through notes hidden in book spines and fashioning iron bars into spikes to use as tools to like break out through the roof, right?
Oh, man.
And then it all nearly comes crashing down when Casanova gets a cellmate. And a cellmate is a spy and completely untrustworthy.
Oh, my God.
One time, as a test, he writes a note to his patron that is entirely it's nothing that would get him in trouble, but it's information that, if it were known, would eventually get back to him.
Right.
At the same, just like threading that needle, right? So it's like, hey, if you could get this to the outside, I'd really owe you a favor later. And it winds up not in the hands of his patron, but the authorities.
Yeah.
All right, you're a liar. Can't trust you. Okay, my escape plan is screwed.
Oh, geez.
So what he does instead is he gets his monk neighbor. Once he breaks through the roof, like, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to climb up on the roof and you're going to break through our roof at specifically this time. Just listen to the clocks chiming. And then once that's arranged, he turns to his cellmate and is like, okay, I've prayed on your betrayal because I know you betrayed me. And the Blessed Virgin told me that she's going to send an angel to make a horrible racket. And you're going to have to repent and do as I say to make up for your treachery.
Holy
Otherwise,
shit.
your eternal soul is forfeit.
Oh, my God.
So he cons this guy into a religious terror in order to get him to shut up and not blow the lid off the escape plan.
Wow.
So,
I love this guy.
So the three of so the neighbor, the cellmate, and Casanova break out onto the roof, and the neighbor's cellmate gives him some cash, but is like, hey, I'm an old man. There's no way I'm getting out of here. And hey, this place is inescapable. You're not getting out either. I'm staying behind. And that gives Casanova's cellmate cold feet. So he stays behind too. Like, fine, good riddance to bad rubbish. You and me, we're getting out of here. And so there's this whole night of shimmying around on the roof because one side of the building is a canal that is too shallow to break their fall instead of just break their neck. And God. The other side is still within the palace walls, and the other side is into a public square that's constantly patrolled by guards.
Oh, God.
So eventually they use like a rope made of bed sheets, because you can't beat the classics in prison escapes.
Man.
to find a ladder that someone had left and like pushed the ladder through a window in a neighboring church and crawled through. Wow. And eventually just kicked down doors all the way out, changed out of their prison rags into the clothes they were arrested in, and walked out on the middle of All Saints Day like it ain't no thing.
Holy
and
crap.
Just kept walking until they hit the border.
Oh, man. That is a great prison break.
It's a great prison break. So, in all the stories of his next few journeys, anytime he went somewhere new, people were like, hey, tell us the story of your prison break. And just him telling this story became his claim to fame for a few tours around Europe.
Oh, dang.
And eventually, when he retired, when he settled down, he ended his life as a practically forgotten and nearly penniless librarian in the castle of a minor Bohemian noble who didn't read. So that left him a lot of time.
Yeah.
So the first thing he really wrote then was the account of his prison escape, and it sold pretty well. Like, hey, wasn't there that famous guy who slept with everyone's wives a few decades back who always told that great prison break story? Well, now we can buy the prison break story. That's fantastic.
Oh, man.
So another good magic story is when he, I like to think of it as the beginning of the end of Casanova the Adventurer. So he meets this Madame de Urf in France, who is all about like weird occult stuff. She is an absolute true believer. Like there's a line in the first chapter with her that's basically, well, if I didn't scam her out of all her money, somebody else would have. She's just that gullible.
Oh,
and if somebody else did, they wouldn't have used it as well as I did. Obviously, I'm the good con man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love me.
And so she was about 70 years old and wanted to be reincarnated or eternally young or just avoid death some way or other. And he's like, yeah, I can help with that. My mystical patron spirit of the beyond knows a guy. We can hook you up with that. So, all right, what you're going to have to do is we're going to have to do some ceremonies every day of the week. And each day we'll honor one of the planets, and we'll make a offering of that planet's gemstone. And that way we'll be all purified and aligned. And then you and I, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get down 3 times in a bathtub, because the mystical power of 3s.
Okay.
And then you will become pregnant with a boy, and you will give birth to that boy, and it will have your soul. You're going to give birth to yourself and be reincarnated.
Wow.
And she bought it.
Okay.
So that's what they did. And every day, a big pile of, Sunday, you'd have a great ceremony to the the sun, which is one of the 7 planets in mystical thinking.
Right.
And Monday to the moon, etc. And they'd fill up this big wooden cask, which was custom made for this ceremony with 7 compartments. And just fill it up with wealth and jewels, and then at the end, we throw it into the ocean. Whoops, that was actually the spare one that was just filled with rocks we threw into the ocean. The gem one is still in my carriage. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But he didn't want to be found out as a liar and a charlatan, so he's got to do the deed. But the thing is, she's 70 years old, and he's afraid for his boner. It's like,
oh no!
We've been through a lot together, little buddy, but she's 70 years old. I don't think we have it in us.
Oh.
So his current, at the time, mistress, who's going around and helping him with these cons, was not 70 years old. It was apparently young and quite lovely. So he dresses her up in a page's outfit to sneak her in as a young boy, locks her inside a closet with another change of clothes because he's like, Madame de Urf is getting cold feet. Like, I don't know. If only there were a sign that our preparations were being, received. If like we were in proper the I don't know if it's gonna work. He's like, okay, I got a message from the great beyond. They're sending a water nymph to help with the ceremony. Cha-chunk, unlock the closet, and here she is now.
Oh, look, it's the water nymph. Hi. How are you doing? What a surprise. Look, honey, it's the water nymph.
Yeah.
Right? And like elbowing this person. Like, be the water nymph.
Yeah, this specific lady was not French. She did not speak French. Okay. So that helped with the whole selling of it. Like, hey, water nymphs, they don't talk. They just sort of do what they're told, and you can say anything you want in French, and she's not gonna know what's up. So the nymph bathes the two of them, and at this point, Giacomo Casanova invents the faked male orgasm.
Okay.
Centuries before Cosmo Kramer even thought of it. But Madame de Urf is convinced that all 3 bouts were successfully completed, and that she is most surely with child, who is herself, who is her son, who is her.
Okay.
Definitely.
Wow.
And so she's like, oh, Jack. I don't know. Jacques? Yeah, Jacques. That's what a French person would call Giacomo. Jacques. Thank you so much for all of this. I will finally have a second lifetime, and what I really need is someone to watch my wealth. Because as soon as I give birth to myself, this body will die, and my new body will be an infant and not able to manage the estate. Why don't I marry you and make you an inheritor of all of my wealth, and then you can raise infant boy me, and we will, and I know I'll still have my estate because it'll be in such good hands.
Right.
See, the problem with that is Casanova knows there's no way in hell a 70-year-old woman got pregnant. The whole thing's gonna blow up in his face really soon.
Yeah.
So he does another reading of the stars. It's like, okay, to make this really work, you're gonna have to go and rest for 14 days, and then move to the city by 3 rivers. Man, 3 rivers, that's weird. What city is that? And she's like, oh, I know French geography. That's Lyon. That's just right over there. Like, oh, awesome. But, I've got to do something I can only do here for a month. You go, I'll stay here, and we'll meet up. They never met up again. That's it. He just left with a big trunk full of diamonds and other valuables.
Oh, damn.
Of course, next time he went to France, by then, Madame d'Urf's family had convinced her she had been incredibly swindled to the highest degree. And they were friends with the king, so he was no longer allowed in France ever again.
Oh, no. Well, he's got a shitload of gemstones.
Yeah, until he gambled them all away. Like,
Damn
seriously, making and losing fortunes overnight.
Good Lord.
But that was pretty much the end of his height. And then he puttered around a while until he eventually got kicked out of everywhere, including Spain, which was entirely his fault. And not to say the others were, but Spain was super his fault.
Yeah.
The Venetian ambassador in Spain had a assistant / young male lover. Whatever. They're nobles. If it got out then, it would be disastrous, but we're in the 21st century now. It's cool. But when Casanova first arrived, some other people took umbrage to this famous libertine trying to hang out in their very pious nation. So there were some trumped up charges, mostly weapon possession, which was entirely true. So he got locked up for a few days until he wrote angry letters to a bunch of people to get him out, because he argued basically that he had Second Amendment rights before there was such a thing. Because this was the 1760s. There was no American Constitution.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that doesn't mean he cannot recognize the right of an independent man to hold weapons in order to defend his wealth against highwaymen.
Right.
But the guy who's basically to blame for getting these messages to the right people and greasing the wheels was the Venetian ambassador's assistant.
Okay.
Who was the Count de something. And just sometime later at a party, just for fun, just for the fun of it, he's like, oh, by the way, that Count over there, not a real Count. He just took the name. Which, wait a minute, who are you to talk Chevalier de St. Gall? Come on. But he used his influence and the name of the Venetian ambassador to make Casanova unwelcome in all of Spain again.
Yeah.
So from then, he just that was the last place he had left. So just wandering around and waning, basically. But by then, he was in his mid-40s, and he wasn't the same guy anymore. It's really interesting to look at his life, because from then on, anything he's making is a new drama or a new history original works, whereas before it was translations of things in order to show off how well read he was in his command of languages. So there's this, you can imagine it as in trying to impress people, he's now trying to make something that will last after his death, you know?
Yeah.
And he's still picking up women in every city, but instead of enjoying them for their beauty and how good they are in bed, first, and how well they are at challenging him intellectually and as strong-willed debate partners second, those sort of flip once he gets into his 40s. And then suddenly, after he's crisscrossed Europe again several more times, the book just stops well before he winds up in Bohemia taking that job as a librarian. Oh. Probably because by that time he had died in the middle of writing it.
Oh, okay.
It still came to, what's the number? 36,000 pages, was it?
Whoa, what?
Yeah, it's
Damn.
a big-ass manuscript. So any time you find it, if you want to find it, it's going to be super abridged. And the question is, like, which parts do they abridge? You know?
Right, yeah.
The interesting things, the historical things. One thing my copy, the Penguin Classics edition cut out that I wish they didn't was him meeting the Count de St Germain.
Okay.
Who is basically doing the same thing. Game recognized game at this dinner party. Casanova was like, okay, all the ladies weren't eating because they were just all true believers about this guy and his incredible magical abilities. I wasn't eating because I just couldn't stop listening to every gigantic lie that fell out of his face and trying not to laugh. The Count de St Germain, he claimed to be over 300 years old.
Okay.
And he learned the ability to melt down gemstones into a single larger gemstone that would still be perfectly cut. Like, he will take your many tiny diamonds and fuse them together into a 5-carat hunk that is perfect and clear and still brilliantly cut because he's just that magic.
Huh.
Saint Germain still has believers today, so if you look up...
Wow, okay.
So if you look up Saint Germain, a lot of the descriptions of him actually come from Casanova's memoirs.
Huh.
And you can tell the intent of the website, depending on whether they just have his physical descriptions and the description of his claims, compared to the ones that also include Casanova like, damn, and I thought I could lie to people. That duel I mentioned in Warsaw is great just because of how you can sort of translate their trash talk over the centuries.
Yeah.
Like, apparently, when arranging a duel, you have to do it with the most passive-aggressive politeness. And, like, the point of every note is, like, anytime, any place, bitch. But it's all like, oh, your most humble servant in the actual language.
What do you get into the duel for? What caused it?
All right, he was at the ballet.
Okay.
And there are these two feuding ballerinas at this ballet who are each doing one show a night. And each ballerina had different local nobles as like giving them patronage. Mm-hmm. So you basically had sharks and jets, but like in the theater boxes doing silent golf claps. It's the weirdest thing.
Huh.
And one of the guys was just a total jackass. And he got in the wrong guy's carriage on the way out after the show one night on purpose.
Okay.
And the other guy's like, hey, that's my carriage. Get out, please. I'm trying to go home. And he doesn't. He's like, all of these carriages know where you live. You can just take any of them. I'm taking yours. So he pulls the guy out like, no, this is my carriage. And slaps him in the face with a glove, and it was the talk of the town for a week. And so later, Casanova, this sort of boils over. It's on a low simmer, and Casanova visits one of the ballerinas to offer his well wishes, his congratulations. Fine dancing tonight. Mm-hmm. And the jackass guy is in there with him. He's like, oh, sorry, let me leave you alone. And he moves on to the other one to offer his congratulations and well wishes. And probably try to hit that, but it didn't get that far. Yeah. And so the guy comes out like, hey, I was talking to that ballerina. You want to start something? He's like, no, it's fine. You finish talking to her. I'm going to talk to this one. And they get in a fight. And so, yeah, they just start doing old-timey trash talk. Let me try to flip to the page, actually.
Oh, man.
Okay. March 5th, 1766, 5 o'clock in the morning. My lord, yesterday evening at the theater, your excellency insulted me quite willfully. Having no reason or right to act in such a matter in my regard, this being so, I must conclude that you despise me, my lord, and that you therefore wish to see me removed from the number of the living. I can and will satisfy your excellency in this. Do be so good, my lord, as to take me in your coach and lead me to where my defeat would not compromise you under the laws of Poland, where I might enjoy the same advantage should God assist me in killing your excellency. I should never, my lord, have made you this offer were I not fully convinced of your magnanimity. With honor I am your excellency's most humble and obedient servant, Casanova.
Holy shit!
You see, within the boundaries of Warsaw, dueling was illegal. That bit in the middle, that's what that's about.
Okay.
That letter's delivered with instructions to his servant to not leave until he has a return message to bring back. Mm-hmm. Monsieur, I accept your offer. But you will be so kind as to tell me when I shall have the honor of seeing you. I am, monsieur, your most humble and obedient servant, Branicki, Postol DCP. So far, the arrangement is, let's duel, tell me where. And Branicki writes back, anytime!
God, the frequency of the word excellency is the best part. It's the most passive-aggressive thing.
Delighted at my good fortune, I answered him at once, saying I would appear at his door at 6 o'clock the following morning, to go with him to settle the quarrel in a safe place. He replied that I should name the weapons in place, and that the matter should be concluded by the end of the day. I then sent him the measurements of my sword, which was 32 inches long, and said the place was his to choose. He replied at once with the following note, which was his last. Pray, take the trouble, monsieur, of coming to see me at once, and I shall be much obliged to you. I'm sending you my carriage for the purpose.
Whoa.
Yeah, you got a 32-inch sword? Say it to my face. So that's another fun...
Oh, that's awesome.
That's another fun little story from the adventuring life of Casanova. But yeah, the reason I like him so much, aside from these colorful anecdotes, is that his whole life is all about living the life you want to live. Like, the reason he loses his money so fast is because he's dressing as someone so much more wealthy than he is. And he's the living embodiment of clothes making the man. If you can quote the right people, you will get to spend 2 weeks living in Voltaire's house, debating literature with him. It's an incredible, colorful life. And there's something so charming about a life so fully lived. And then reading it from his own writing, you get such a fuller, completer picture. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to read that. There's always a ton of stuff I want to read, and then I don't read it. I just need to get on that.
You can at least watch the miniseries, and you'll get the idea. You'll at least get the idea. Mm-hmm. With less coercion in. Oh goodness. 1700s morality leaves some things to be desired.
Yeah. It's
interesting in that the things that they found him morally deficient for are the things that we'd have no problem with, and vice versa. Like it just completely flipped. Yeah. So back to video games.
Video games. That demo derby, or not demo derby, that demo theater thing.
Yeah, why not call it Demo Derby? I don't know.
That's what Giant Bomb calls their demo disc thing.
Okay, so that's exactly why not to call it that.
Yep. I want to bring up something I saw recently real quick before we move on to the next thing, just because the demo thing was a little short.
Okay.
So I watched a musical.
Oh, you're all grown up.
Well, I didn't watch a musical because I heard it was good, though. I heard it was bad.
Okay, okay.
This was a movie called The Apple. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Don't think so.
Okay, so The Apple, it came out around... It might have been 1980. it was just capitalizing on the success of some other musical stuff.
Right.
It was a little bit after Xanadu, which was also bad if I remember correctly.
It's special.
Yeah, I like the music at least. I think.
Oh yeah, the music's fantastic.
So that's great. The movie itself, I don't know. The Apple does not have the same luxury that Xanadu had, in that its music is also bad. The Apple is this weird movie musical about how in the far future of 1994, the entire world has basically become like this kind of dystopian world ruled by a record company or a label called BIM. B-I-M.
Okay, sure.
And the two protagonists are people from Moose Jaw, Canada, apparently. And everybody does not like that they're from Moose Jaw. It's like, Moose Jaw. But there's like a big BIM thing where like the hottest BIM band is playing their song. And it's all about, hey, BIM, it's coming. And there's like this part at the end of the song that loops one measure of music for about 2 minutes long.
Goodness.
It's awful. But it's just, all the costumes are really weird. The two protagonists from Canada are like doing like this old love song from like the 70s, or that's the style. And everybody's booing them because they were doing really well for a little bit. And the way that the future measures how well music is performing is by monitoring the audience's heart rate.
Okay, sure.
And this slow moving love ballad was somehow making everybody's heart
so if we
really
just
fast.
Turn cocaine into an aerosol, we'll have the biggest hit ever.
And so they turn on the make people hate this sound that makes everybody boo these people. They eventually do get called up by BIM, though, to like sign this contract, and the contract's like this thing where you basically sell your soul away to this I can't remember his Mr. Boogaloo. He is the man who owns and runs BIM.
If that's the most villainous name I've ever heard.
Yeah. Mr. Boogaloo is like this older French guy who's a little balding. He has like a goatee and a mustache. And he is the movie's analog for the devil. They are not subtle with this, because while the male protagonist is thinking, no, this contract is bad, while his girlfriend is just signing right away, he just suddenly sees himself in hell with no clothes on, and Mr. Boogaloo is there as the devil, but also kind of dressed up more like Dracula. Whenever he's shown as being like literally Satan, he has tons of glitter and sparkles stuck in his beard.
Okay. As Satan does.
And this entire song in hell is about the apple, and please taste this apple. And the Mr. Boogaloo's like kind of like offensively gay stereotype assistant is like dressed as a snake, and they're just holding this gigantic plastic apple, and the lyrics contain things such as meet an actual vampire, because they couldn't think of anything else to rhyme at that spot.
Well, isn't that just special?
Yeah, this movie is so weird because it kind of builds up all of this stuff to come to like, he is down in the dumps, his girlfriend has completely forgot about him because she's taken a bite of the apple or whatever, and she signed the contract with literally Satan, and then all of a sudden she just goes, oh, wait a minute, and she just does a 180 heel turn in one scene for no reason.
Well, I guess it's more of a face turn in that case.
Yeah. And she goes and finds her boyfriend, who is no longer about music, and instead met up with a guy who looks like Santa Claus and is the leader of the remnants of the hippie movement, who live in a cave underneath
we all know what
bridge.
The Revenge of the Hippies is, thanks to Phil Robertson.
Yep. So he just lives with these hippies underneath this bridge now, in this hippie cave. And then she eventually finds them, and then they cut to the next scene, and it looks like it's just later in the afternoon. But apparently an entire year has passed. And now they have a son living with these hippies.
Next year we'll also have afternoons. It's fine.
Yeah. They now have a baby who, even though it's only been a year, appears to be 6 years old because he's very large. And at the very end, while all of BIM and the police are there to arrest all the hippies because they, felt they canceled the contract, they owe BIM $5 million or something. And then out of nowhere, while they're being escorted to prison, a magical sedan drives into the sky. A magical golden sedan. And then
it's a tribute to Greece. Okay.
Yep. And then, while this gigantic golden sedan is in the air, a man named Mr. Tops walks out, and he is literally God. And he just takes all the hippies, and they walk into the golden sedan, and while talking to Mr. Boogaloo, he talks about how he's going to find a new planet and start all over again, but without the influences of Mr. Boogaloo. And that's the end of the movie. God just comes out of nowhere and just makes all these hippies get in his magical sedan, and they drive to another planet.
Imagine all the kids who watched that in their church youth group.
Yeah. What's really funny about the whole God just coming out of nowhere and saving everybody is there was supposed to be an opening song to this movie that shows Mr. Tops creating the universe and all this stuff. And it was cut out of the movie because it was supposed to have lions and elephants in it. And they had huge production problems with the animals mainly, where the tigers were getting loose and the elephants were getting their trunks stuck in stuff because there were too many props around. So the elephants were just getting stuck and knocking shit over, so they just cut it out of the movie and then just had the God ending anyways.
Well, it sounds lovely.
It's on Netflix. It's pretty entertaining. There's only one song that's kind of okay, and that's the reggae one. It's the reggae song Mr. Boogaloo sings. Everything else
there you go. You've been tempted by Satan. I can't trust you anymore.
It is not a subtle movie. It's really weird. Now I'm going to have to make up for it and see an actual good musical.
All right. So, do you want to move on to the next topic?
Sure.
Sure. Let me just read what you wrote when you pitched it to me.
We are talking about mainly the reception to the Order.
Yes. And how more sites are just dropping review scores. So tell me about the reception to the Order. I have not paid attention to it at all.
So, the Order was a big PS4 exclusive AAA game. Made by the people who, Ready at Dawn, I think, who are the people who, before this, had made the two PSP God of War side games that people said were pretty okay. I haven't played them. But this was their first, really huge, unique IP that they've ever made. It is probably the best-looking game ever made, right now at least. It is seriously impressive. But the game is, about 5 hours long. It's very linear. There's no multiplayer. Half of the game's playtime is actually just watching cutscenes. It's a cover-based third-person shooter that is kind of steampunk. Tesla's in the game. He gives you weapons that he's made, but you only get 2 of them, and the game barely ever lets you use them.
That's nice.
So all the other guns are just the normal pistols and machine guns, and it's the game did not get received well. It got a lot of...
It sounds like the sort of thing that would not be well received.
Yeah, it got lots of middling reviews. A couple places gave it 1s or 2s out of 5 or whatever. And right around this time is also the same time more, I think it was Eurogamer maybe? More places recently have begun just dropping review scores in general because people just run straight to the number and not read anything about the review. And that's all anybody ever focuses on are these numbers. And they get outraged when that number is not the number they think it should be.
I'm just going to clue everybody into a little secret. There's no such thing as numbers. Numbers are not real.
What?
Yeah, it's just a symbol to communicate meaning. You know what symbols communicate a lot more meaning? Words, paragraphs on end of them.
But I need a single figure that represents how good it is.
I've never understood the difference between an 8.5 and an 8.8.
Yeah, it's like the only like scale I can really understand if you just do like a 1 through 5 and no halves, just like 1 through 5. 5 is like amazing, 4 is really good, 3 is okay, 2 is if you really wanna, and 1 is just like no.
And
that's
I mean, it's one of those things where I'd so much rather see you show your work.
Yeah.
Like, it's good in what way? What is it good at? What is it? What experience does it deliver?
Yeah, and it's just like I would much more prefer those reviews to be more how that reviewer feels instead of like the people have complained that reviews should be objective or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like
think of all the times you've read a review of something where by reading it, the reaction you'd have, the opinion you'd have were you to experience it.
Yeah.
And it's still the opposite of what the reviewer thought.
Yeah. Now
think of how many times that happened and it was a game review. Oh, wow, that number just went way down. Yeah, that's just not how it goes.
Yeah.
I think people want and have wanted for a long time their game reviews to be something other than sort of consumer reports. Does this software function? And numerical review scores are basically only good for that sort of functional thing, not anything about what a game is or means or communicates.
Yeah, and it's like there are a couple joke reviews out there that are specifically just objective reviews. Like I think Jim Sterling did one for Final Fantasy 13, and people didn't like his actual review and what he thought of it, and it was just like an entire thing that just said Final Fantasy 13 has graphics. You can see them. Some people will say they are good. Some might think they are not good. I will leave it up to you. It's a funny review.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope more places drop the whole number thing, because on top of that, like corporations, like the actual publishers of the games, look at those numbers, and people's like wages depend on those numbers. Because like even Nintendo, like when they had their big annual conference thing last month for their investors and stuff, they were bragging like, hey, we have so many more games with a really high Metacritic score than any other console or publisher right now. And like with when Fallout New Vegas came out, all the employees there were going to get a bonus, but only if the average Metacritic rating for their game was an 85 or higher, and they got like an 83 or 84, so no bonus. Like,
I mean, I think things like Metacritic or review scores are useful to publishers in that way. Yeah. Like, how else are you going to get... Without numbers, you can't do a numerical analysis. You can't do a statistical comparison.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much useless for the consumer.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that you're seeing it come up less often is because even the people who make the reviews are sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, how do I distill this experience I had and all of the facets of it into a number?
Yeah. Although I think maybe one of the bigger problems with the Metacritic is just because, there's so many places that have different score
different
standards,
guidelines. Yeah.
Different guidelines. So it's like, even with those numbers, there are different scoring systems, and Metacritic has to like convert them into one scoring system, just 1 through 100. So it's like, that gets a little weird. Like, is that number actually correct?
One person scores how much they liked it. One person scores how well the game achieved its goals. One score is a guess at the likelihood the average person will enjoy it. And those are all being averaged together. And... yeah, it's just I hope more and more places continue to do,
just drop in review scores and just have people actually read it, or at least instead of at the bottom having a number, at least just have like 1 or 2 sentences that sums it up really good or something.
Yeah,
And like Kotaku doesn't even do a number; they just do yes or no. Like they list pros and cons underneath it, but
I mean, I guess that is the bottom line, isn't it?
yeah, yes, no.
Just gonna cut to the chase there.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wonder how good the yes no thing is, because like they list the pros and cons too. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. I'll actually have to look at some of those reviews to see if that.
I guess it's a question of
works.
where you draw the line for yes or no as a consumer and a player compared to where the reviewer does. Mm-hmm. But that's what the rest of the text is for. Figure it out yourself. Read a thing. Ta-da!
Yeah. But yeah, it's like with Ready at Dawn when the order was getting pretty mixed reviews and some fairly negative ones, the developers made this analogy, and I've seen a couple other developers do this in the past, where they say that their game is a steak. I've seen this analogy a couple times over the past couple of years, where they're talking about like the order is really linear. You play through it once, that's it. There's no other reason to replay it, because there's like not even difficulty modes. I think there's just collectibles to get, but you don't get unlockables for it. I don't think there are any kind of unlockables or anything. So it's just a one playthrough and you're done thing, and it's only 5 to like 8 hours at the most. And they talk about, well, our game is like that, but those 8 hours are put together so well, it's like having a really good steak. You know, you just have it once and it fills you up and you're happy. But it's I don't know. I've seen a fair amount of the order, and it doesn't look like a particularly great steak to me. I can't remember who else used the steak analogy. It might have been Itagaki, maybe? No, that wasn't Itagaki. Itagaki used the jet plane analogy. He was talking about how different consoles were different kinds of jet planes.
I just found like an editorial about the whole steak thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Borderlands was a steak.
Okay.
I like to think of it as a steak. This is a game that's really a steak. It's deep, it's juicy, it's good. And tomorrow I would like to have another steak.
Aren't you going to get tired of that steak, though? I don't know. I get tired of steak.
Age of Conan was a steak in 2008.
Okay. Wow, 2008. That steak thing's
I
been
enjoyed
around
playing
for a while.
WoW. I enjoyed Lord of the Rings Online. But you know, if you've been going to McDonald's for 4 or 5 years, sometimes it's great to have a great steak and a glass of good wine. I think that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, God of War was a steak.
Okay.
It's like eating a really good steak and then going back to Sizzler. Let's see. The PS3 is the surf and turf. You want the lobster and steak.
All right.
You're going to give yourself this... let's see. This is Jack Tretton saying this, and he called the Wii a lollipop. And the 360 is something I get sick from once in a while because the cook isn't always reliable.
God, so many food analogies for video games.
Kojima called game consoles steaks.
Okay.
But what's different is the environment in which you eat them. Mm-hmm. According to Kojima in 2005, the 360 will be a special dinner, so you might go there 2 or 3 times a month on a weekend or something. Mm-hmm. While the Revolution is kind of great dinner that you have every day at your home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Nintendo Revolution?
Yes, this was 2005, back before it was the Wii.
That's right, before it was the Wii.
Oh, to finish it, the PS3 is a great steak you have once a year for your anniversary.
Okay.
Although he later clarified that the PS3 was a movie theater with a THX sound system, the 360 was a DVD at home, and the Wii was over-the-air television.
Okay. Man. That's a lot of analogies for these video games. What's the steakums of video games?
Well, according to Puzzle and Dragons maker Gung Ho Online, traditional consoles are steak, but mobile games are either hamburger or snacks.
Okay. I want to know what the steakum of video games is. Just thinly cut frozen steak.
I guess it depends on what That's the order. That's the stake that the order is. That's what it is.
Okay. It's okay. The Order 1886 is the Steakums
It is
of video
Steakums.
games.
It's over quick, and there you go.
Yep. You can try and dress it up with not a lot of really other nice ingredients, but it's still going to be Steakum.
But it's still Steakums.
It's still Steakum.
And you still bought them, so really, who can you blame?
Yeah, like, look, there might be some vegetables, there might be some mozzarella cheese on top of that, but the core of it, Steakum. And that's steaks in video games.
Oh, goodness. Goodness gracious. So do you want to move on to the ask portion?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we agreed on doing this one.
Yeah.
All right, this month's Ask Chip and Ironicast segment comes from Ix, who you might know as one of the other contributors to the 6 Feet Under podcast that I do. In fact, I've got a date with him later tonight. We're recording session 62 of our 13th Age game.
Nice.
The question is kind of long, so I'm going to read it. I'm going to skip to the 3rd paragraph and start from where the question begins.
All right.
What change in individual, society, philosophy, etc. do games, traditionally or digital, excel at triggering as opposed to other forms of media such as print, audio, cinematic, television? In other words, what ways do games successfully transcribe messages or even morals that other forms of media cannot do? I'd put in or cannot do as well. Some noteworthy examples, perhaps. Are there any examples of games like this where change or message was an intention or unintentional? Or games where the message was intentional but fell flat in the end? That's a whole lot of sub-questions. Thanks, Ix.
Yeah. I can think of a couple of games that are trying to have some kind of message that fall flat.
Yeah? Lay them on me.
Okay. BioShock Infinite?
Okay.
That is a game that is probably trying to have a couple different messages, and I don't think any of them quite work right.
Racism is not bad, and we used to be really racist, so be less racist.
Yeah.
I can get behind that, I will say.
That is the game where at a certain point, the people who are being enslaved and all that kind of rebel, and then the game portrays them as being just as bad as the other people, and that was kind of tonally weird. That game also had a part where it was like, something in games that could, help convey a message well, if it is done correctly, is when a game has choices. Because that's interactive, and other forms of media aren't going to have that kind of interactivity, and that could help make certain types of messages be really impactful. BioShock Infinite, at the beginning part, you come up to this stage, and they're laughing and pointing at this interracial couple, which is a big no-no. And they give you a baseball, and they give you the choice to either beam the interracial couple on the head with the baseball, or you have a choice to not do it.
And this is the game is giving you the choice. The characters are like, "Come on, be the first person to stone them with baseballs."
Yes.
It's your lucky day. You get to start executing these people with baseballs.
Yeah, they give you the choice to do it or not do it. The game it totally cops out on this choice. If you don't do it, you end up getting...
The game starts, basically.
Yeah, if you do not do it, you end up getting some kind of reward. If you do it, you end up getting some kind of reward, but from a different kind of person. If you commit to doing it, you do not actually do it, because at that point, no matter what choice you make, is when the police find you and you saw one of their faces off with a grappling hook. So...
And that's how we learn that people used to be a lot more racist, and we should continue to be less racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The choice you make doesn't really affect anything. You just get an item out of it either way. I
think what you're getting at is that the advantage games have is that they are systems, and so portraying things insofar as they are also systems is where a game's strength can really lie. for video games, a really obvious example is Depression Quest,
Yes.
which presents depression as a system you are trapped in. And the conceit, the way it works, is that you're given options all the time of what you're going to do next. And the things that would help you most, even though you know it's the right thing to do, are often grayed out and cannot be selected because you are stuck and you cannot bring yourself to do it.
Right.
You can get maybe the next best thing, and through work and dedication, building your safety net among your friends and family, you can get better, but it's always going to be there. And
right.
So yeah, using the fact that games are systems to portray systems that bind your actions and limit your choices is a natural fit. And when people use that to its potential, you're going to wind up a lot better than which healing item are you going to get? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, that's one of the things where I've when things have had like moral choices or something like that, or anything that could potentially be trying to portray a message, or maybe does even when the people didn't intend it to, is when it kind of gets reduced to like a very video gamey feeling thing, where it's just like, you get a different reward for doing this, if sometimes it feels kind of cheap when they do that.
Speaking of 6 Feet Under, and that the question did open things up to non-digital games. I think things like Eclipse Phase are really interesting. Eclipse Phase is a cyberpunk post-human game that separates your character's inner self from their body. Basically, everyone's a digital ghost in some sense that is constantly being backed up, and you can sleeve into different bodies.
Okay.
And from there, you could, and the setting attempts to say a lot of things about identity and the difference between your perceived self and your physical self. And the setting does a lot to try, but the mechanics don't really give it the backing oomph, I don't feel.
Right.
And I mean, I haven't read all of the books. This might be something Posthuman Studios is working on reinforcing, but you could easily make that a major theme in your game at your table, but it's not as baked in as I feel like it could be, or maybe even they want it to be.
Yeah. There is a game, surprisingly, that kind of... I don't think this was intentional.
Also, yes, one of our chat viewers right now is in the 6 Feet Under Eclipse Phase game.
Hey!
I got you, buddy. Yeah.
There is an Assassin's Creed game that kind of does... It's something minor, but would be something cool to see reflected in more games. I think it was done accidentally. I can't remember which Assassin's Creed it's the name of it. It's the one where he plays the lady. The lady pirate.
The one that came out on Vita alongside 3?
Liberation?
Well, that one had a lady. I can't keep track of all the...
I think it's Liberation.
Oh, okay.
Her gameplay mechanic that none of the other assassins had was that she could dress up in different outfits. There was, the traditional Assassins one, which, worked just like every other Assassin's Creed protagonist. She was black, so there was also a outfit you could wear to, a slave outfit. And then there was another one that was like a fancy rich lady, basically. And depending on which one you wore, all the NPCs in the world reacted to you differently. Like, if you were dressed up as a slave, people were treating you as a slave. If you're dressed up as the rich lady, in a nice dress, then, like, if you're like some of the male NPCs would start, making advances towards you and all this stuff. And then if you were jumping around as a crazy assassin, everybody thought, oh my god, look at that guy with knives for hands. I would like to see more stuff that attempts to, show the difference in how different types of people are treated and that kind of society stuff. Because even minor stuff like that can also help those kind of open world things feel more real.
Right.
When different people are treated differently and all that, and it can show, it can play with that kind of stuff. I think they
shifting
did it,
identity, plural identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
I think they kind of did that by accident in that game. Maybe I don't know if it was. It wasn't like probably a major focus. Maybe somebody.
Happy
like one
accidents
person,
are still happy things. It's
maybe one person was like really behind that, and they were just happy they were able to get something like that in. I don't know. That's cool though. I would like to see some game explore with that type of thing more. 'Cause that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. A game I played yesterday. Yesterday I recorded a guest spot on the One Shot RPG podcast.
Yeah.
That's probably going to go up Monday the 3rd, or maybe Monday the 10th. I don't know their upload schedule. Mm-hmm. But it's called Headspace. It's also cyberpunk, but more Lawnmower Man, like 80s cyberpunk.
Okay.
But the conceit of that game is that your whole team of operators is wired into one another's brains. And so whenever you're doing things, there's a chance you're going to flood the shared headspace, hence the title of the game, with emotional baggage. And so our hacker is in the security zone of the office tower where we're searching out a black site, rigging drones, which might cause a rage cascade to make my character just act recklessly on my branch of the infiltration. I'm not sure we played it properly because there were... it's an unreleased in-development game that I didn't read, so I don't know how. But we had a fun time, and that could also be used for just showing how anytime you're being put in someone else's head, and not only being shown like, oh wow, Picard is really freaking out because of Sarek's mind meld, but now it's your character who you are portraying who's dealing with your friend's regret over his dead son is now making me react, and I have to share that past. I have to share that experience.
Yeah.
And if I don't act it out, the game doesn't work right. Yeah. Well, it's no fun if you're not actually role-playing in a role-playing game, dang it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the worst. I've played a couple tabletop things where it's just been people like looking up the rules, trying to figure out.
You want to guest on 6 Feet Under?
Possibly.
Our schedule's actually booked up until April, but
wow. Okay. If
sometimes I go on planning benders and I get really stressed out for 2 days, and then I'm like, damn, we are set for a while.
If by the time that schedule is more free, and if I'm not already getting hired for a certain thing, then yeah. I don't know. I'll say in the podcast just because I'm excited about it. I had one good interview, and I'm getting a second interview with a certain AAA game dev for a certain position. That's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. So I think I hope that covers the topic, and if not, Ix can yell at me about it later today.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's even more, but that's kind of a huge topic.
Yeah.
And this is a podcast is already an hour and a half in.
Mm-hmm. So once again, I'd like to thank you, yes, you, for listening. And please give us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps people find the show. I know every podcast you listen to says the same thing. You know why? Because it's true.
Yep.
But if you're not listening to this through a podcatcher or an RSS or iTunes, then hey, even so, you can share it around, no matter how you're listening to it. Tell a friend that you get to learn about weird, unreleased tabletop games and review scores and late Renaissance con men in the same What other podcast has that in the same place?
I don't know.
The same episode.
I cannot think of one.
There's none.
Crazy value.
Crazy value. We're one of a kind here at Chipod Ironicast. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next month. Keep the questions coming. We've had such high quality questions. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So with that, we still don't have a sign off.
Nope.
Good night, folks.
Bye, everybody.
That's just going to be what the sign off is, and we don't have one.
Yeah, we don't have one. Bye. See ya.
Magic apple, mystery apple, take a little ride. Let me be your guide through the apple paradise. Juju apple, voodoo apple, take a little bite. Spend a splendid night in our garden of delights. It's a natural desire. Meet an actual vampire. Let the apple set your soul